Good afternoon, guys. Hey there. I want to talk to you guys today a little bit about diffusion methods with animals. So I want to kind of define a few things before we get into speaking about essential oil, specific oils. Before I get too far along, let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Christina Campbell. I am the mother of two beautiful children who have gone to the playground for just enough time for me to shoot this video. So I'm hoping that we get this done before any interruptions. And I am also the wife of a fabulous surgeon, and I am a physician myself, practicing for about 20 years, and I'm board certified in emergency medicine. I'm your Dr.OilyMom. My passion is prevention, using healthy diet and exercise and essential oils. So let's talk today about, I'm a little distracted by the doorbell, sorry. Let's talk about diffusion methods. So when we're talking about animals, there are two basic diffusion methods for essential oils. The first one is mechanical. So like a diffuser, something mechanical that propulses the oil into the air. And the other is simply passive diffusion. So just evaporation of the oil itself, whether it's evaporating out of the bottle, it's evaporating off your hands or off your clothes, or a diffuser necklace, which is essentially an evaporating device. So that's the basic as far as passive diffusion. So just kind of what the oils do on their own without a whole lot of help from us, right? Mechanical diffusion has to do with, as I said, a machine or a propulsion device. There's about 3 different types of mechanical diffusion. The first one is well known to many people now, didn't used to be, but I think it's becoming more mainstream, is the mechanical diffuser, the water-based diffuser, much like the one in the back right there. In fact, I should turn that on, so I have my oils going while we're talking. I had it set up and I forgot to turn it on. There we go. So anyway, that's my dewdrop diffuser. That's the one that came with my essential oil, my premium starter kit. Ooh, that smells nice. Anyway, so that is a water-based diffuser. How it works is you put essential oils into it, and you fill it up to the fill line with water, and then there's a plate that vibrates at a very high velocity, and in that vibration causes the oils and the water to mix together and become a vapor, and it comes straight out through the top. So that is how a water-based mechanical diffuser works. The great thing about this type of diffusing method with animals in particular, but also when you're talking about children, humans, babies, newborns, newborn animals, you have a very high level of control for the concentration of the oil. You can go as low as taking a toothpick amount of oil in the water, to fill the water container up, and just a toothpick amount, or you can go as much as 20 or more drops in the diffuser. So you can see where it's very easy to control the concentration of essential oils that you're using and diffusing into the air. And obviously you would adjust that based on the size of the animal, or whether this is a newborn animal, whether this is a small animal, an exotic animal, or a larger animal. And there's no carrier oil needed with this. In fact, if you put carrier oils into the diffuser, typically it'll ruin the diffuser, and then you'll be buying another one. So don't use carrier oils in your diffuser. Just the oils and the water is all you need. And a good starting point is a general rule of thumb. And again, this is just generally speaking, 1 to 4 drops into the diffuser. If you are diffusing in a room that's in close contact with the animal, perhaps even in an animal who's a caged animal. So this would be a good rule of thumb as to a starting point. And again, it'll depend a little bit, and we'll talk more specifics when we talk about specific animal species. There's 2 other types of mechanical diffusion. The other one I may have touched on the other day, I can't remember, but is a spritzer. Essentially you create, here I've got one over here. You use water and essential oils, and you put it into a container like a glass container with a sprayer on top. This is my Thieves household cleaner, but I could make a Thieves essential oil or peppermint or any other essential oil I could put into that water and mix it up, and then you spray it into the air. You can spray it into the air near an animal. You can spray it into the air just in the room where the animal may be. Regardless of what you do, the essential oils are very concentrated, and the animal will get some benefit. So that's another way, which is very easy to control the concentration too. So again, you can, and I usually use a smaller bottle, but I didn't have a smaller one handy to show you. But you can use a 2 ounce or a 4 ounce bottle or 8 ounce bottle, whatever you've got, a glass bottle, and you can put as little as a toothpick or as many drops as you want into that water. And obviously the more drops you have, the higher the concentration of essential oil you're exposing your animal to. And again, as I said the other day, start slow and then increase it as you see your animal tolerates it or likes it. The third way to diffuse is called an air diffusion method. So there are specific diffusers that do not use water, but simply are able to transmit the essential oil itself into the air. There's one called I think it's called the TheraPro Premium diffuser is one that can do that. There's a couple that are sold currently in Young Living, and I can't come up with the name, but I can put them in the comment section later, or put a link to it in the comment section later. There's another one that's a USB. It looks like a little USB drive. It actually goes into the computer or a USB port, and it electronically puffs the oil directly into the air. The thing about the air diffusion method is it tends to be a much more highly concentrated version of the essential oil, because you're not mixing with water, you're not mixing with carrier oil, you're just putting it straight into the air. So it's a very highly concentrated version of diffusion. And so the animals and certain oils, we'll talk about when we go through the oils in the premium starter kit. We'll talk about which animals and which ones you can use this type of method with. I always remind people to make sure pets have a way to leave the room if they don't like the oils. Absolutely, couldn't agree more, and especially with cats, because they are very finicky. I think I posted a picture a couple days ago of my cat who loves Oola Balance, and she loves the pine oils. So she will come and snuggle right up next to the diffuser or right under the table where the diffuser is when she likes the oils. And when she doesn't, she'll just simply go in another room. So you're absolutely correct, Morgan. Couldn't agree more. There are some reasons to use with caged animals oils, but what you do then is, of course, you monitor very closely. And we'll talk more about that when we talk specific oils. But yes, giving the animal the choice is absolutely a good point. Thank you. So, where was I? Okay, so air diffusion. Yeah, so I talked about the two different ones that I can think of off the top of my head, and again, I'll put in the comment section later a link to the ones that we're carrying, Young Living is carrying currently, that are in fact air diffusers. When we talk about water diffusion, that's what you were just talking about, Morgan, is open room diffusers. There's different phraseology. So I just kind of want to introduce this now so that you guys know what terms I'm using. So when we go into the essential oils, specific oils later, you'll understand what I'm saying. So when we talk about an open room, we're talking about, and I'm going to turn the camera around so you guys can see this. So we're talking about a fairly large room. This would be when I say an open room, this is my open room. I have an Aria diffuser in here, which covers most of the room. But it's fairly open. You can see it has a high ceiling. There's a lot of space, and it goes into the TV room over there too. So it's a fairly large area. It's an area where the animal can escape. And so with a larger area, you're going to have less concentration of the oil in any one space when it's being diffused. And this is a method that's appropriate for all animals. An open space like that is something you can use with all animals, exotics, birds, cats, dogs. I can't imagine you'd bring your horse in the house, but if you're talking about open room, you can talk about that when you're talking about using it in the barn or the stalls. That's a great place to do an open room diffusion. Small closed room diffusion, when we talk about small closed room, we're talking more like a bathroom sized area. So much more like, let's see, Gosh, I hope my bathroom isn't a mess. Kids are home from school. Okay, so something like this. So a little bit smaller room, right? Not a lot of space. And if I close the door, you can see it wouldn't be a huge amount of space in here. So this would be more like a small, sorry, I hope I'm not making you sick. So this would be a small room. And if I had a diffusing device in here, which I don't, but if I did, this would be, and this is the cat's bathroom. We call it the cat's bathroom. That's where she has her food and water too. But this would be the kind of space that we would be talking about with small closed room, okay? And that would be where the animal actually cannot escape. And there are some reasons to do that if the animal is in jeopardy or you're trying to address a certain issue with a certain concentration of oil. But again, you always want to make sure that your animals are comfortable with it and that they're not having any issues. So that would be a highly monitored type situation. The other way to do it would be what's called caging, where you actually direct the vapor from the diffuser. You would direct it into the cage, the animal's cage. This is something, or kennel, cage or kennel. This would be something that the animal, again, could not get away from or move away from. So it would be another situation where you would certainly want to very closely monitor the animal and make sure they're not having any sensitive, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not sensitive to the oil or they're not having any issues with the oil. And they will give you some signs, behavioral signs. And then tenting is another way that you can use, where that would be where you would actually have the animal in a cage or a kennel situation, but you would cover it. So you'd have the essential oil vapors inside and you would cover it with a towel or a sheet. And again, these are situations that are not your typical everyday things, but I want you to understand the terminology that I'm using when we start talking specific essential oils in the next few videos. Oh, so let me talk about this too. So I mentioned briefly monitoring your animals. So in any diffusing situation, if it's the first time that you're diffusing a specific oil around an animal, you want to make sure you monitor them for several minutes in the beginning to make sure that they are tolerating it well. Signs for you to look for that might be an indication that the animal's not tolerating or is not enjoying that oil would be a change in their breathing pattern, an increase in their respiratory rate. If they're panting or drooling, this is specifically, cats specifically will drool when they get upset about a specific oil. But all animals can exhibit that sign. Squinting their eyes, trying to move away from the device. And then you know your animals, you know your pets, you know your animals, you know your horses, and they will show you some behavioral change if they're uncomfortable. So if you get any sense that they're experiencing discomfort with the essential oil or something that's out of the ordinary, just turn it off. Just turn off the diffuser and open up the windows or allow some more fresh air in. The animal will be fine. They'll be fine. But if they are not enjoying it and they're not reacting well to it, turn it off. And maybe that's not an oil that you want to use right now. Maybe that's an oil that you use too much and you want to try a lower concentration. So, so those are things to look for when you're monitoring your animals. And again, if it's the first time you're diffusing a very specific oil around an animal, just like when you start feeding a baby, a newborn, or well, they're not newborn, 6 months, if you're feeding a 6-month-old and you're starting them on a regular diet, typically speaking, you would start with one food at a time and you would give them a few days with that one food before you changed or advanced them to a different food. And that's how you kind of get an idea whether they have a reaction to that specific food. So for me, with my kids, I typically started with apples and I made my own food. So I would use applesauce. And I would give them 3 or 4 days of applesauce only along with I breastfed, so along with the breastfeeding or bottle feeding. And then if they had a reaction, then I knew it was to the only thing that was new. So same thing with essential oils. Start with one specific oil, something that's relatively mild, go very low on your concentration, and then see how your animal reacts. And then you can increase that concentration. If they seem to enjoy it, or they haven't had any bad reaction to it, then you can increase the concentration and see how they do. And play with one oil at a time rather than kind of bombarding with multiple things at once. And then that'll give you a good feel. And you can even keep a log if you're really, really into this and you want to keep a log of what they've enjoyed, what they haven't liked, the concentrations that you've used at that moment, you can do that too. I don't go that crazy, but certainly if you have performance animals or you have very specific concerns, that's something that you can do. And if you've got it documented, it makes it really easy to go back and say, oh yeah, okay, well, this is what I did differently this week. And then you know what to change in the future or what to try to adjust. So, okay, so that's the basics about diffusing methods, and I'll talk to you later. All right.